So, as a fun extension, I thought it would be cool if I did what I like to call a bonus episode. And I'm going to start this bonus episode with a story from when I was much, much younger, when I was still in college. My group of friends and I, we had a friend, an exchange student who used to come over once every year or so. Her name was Lucy, and I don't recollect where exactly she's from. But every time she'd come, we used to do this weird thing where we'd all, we'd throw a small house party. There'd be 4 or 5 of us, and we'd sit down and we'd just talk about life. It wasn't like your traditional party. We'd eat and we'd talk about things that were beyond just mundane things. And one interesting thing about Lucy is that people behave very differently around her, right? She just brought out the best in people and sometimes the worst in people. And just before she left, and I haven't seen Lucy in about 4 or 5 years, just before she left, she handed me a very old book, a book that was written sometime in 1967. It was a very short kind of 3 or 4 pages. It wasn't really a book, it was more like a manual of sorts. And the manual is about how people behave in social situations, especially in small social situations like groups of 4 or 5 people. And this was way before I got into neuroscience or anything. Obviously she inspired me to go down some of these paths, but this was way before I even got into the science of things. And when I spent some time reading that book, I for the first time understood the different characters, the different types of people that exist in social situations. So I want to quickly run you through the kinds of people that exist in a 3 or 4 man social situation and how you should deal with them. So the first kind of person is the person who just wants to leave, right? It's somebody who just says, hey, get me out of here, who comes in because they're at home, they have nothing to do, and once they're at the party, they look around for a few minutes or hours, and then just like, I want to get out of here, right? And they try to drag everybody out as well, and they're like, please, can I leave? And the thing about Lucy is when she's around, she doesn't let people leave very easily. She asks you to stay for a while. These kind of people, from my experience, you also find them in normal social situations. The people who are just, it's not that they're antisocial, it's just that them not enjoying the situation means that other people shouldn't enjoy the situation as well. And what I've learned in the past is it's just better not to invite these people. The next kind of person is the baby. The person who comes to an event, who's antisocial, who doesn't want to leave, but who acts helpless and just expects others to look after him or give him or her attention. He communicates only in a couple of words, makes some meaningless noises, and just wants others to pay attention or fetch him food or water, right? So I've seen this a lot. This kind of person just wants attention in a social situation. What I've realized is, if you leave this person alone for a while, they eventually understand that there's a joy of sharing the experience with your friends, of sharing an experience like this with your friends, and being a baby and asking for things and feeling helpless is not going to help anybody. So the best way to deal with these people is just ignore them for a while. The next person is the couch, right? Who just, they enter social situations and they start talking about their personal traumas, and they believe that any social situation is a situation where somebody can psychoanalyze them, and they will tell you all about their childhood traumas and neurosis and stuff. Pouring forth your entire stream of thought, that's not honesty. It's just an attempt to monopolize attention, and it also irritates everybody around you. So one piece of advice I have for people who have to deal with somebody like this is to not pay attention, right? It's exactly like dealing with a baby, which is you just don't pay attention to this person and try to kick that person out of the group, because eventually what you will realize is this is still an attention game. The next kind of person is the person who just never grows up, the drunk who comes in and everything that you talk to about this person, that person will just reduce to silliness, right? So you could talk about life or what you're going to do next or anything, and this person will just reduce it to some sort of silliness. They'll just say, hey, they make a joke about it, or they laugh about something. You'll see this person making cynical remarks or giggling. They just don't want to talk about anything that has any sort of futuristic time span, anything that makes sense or means something 3 or 4 years in the future or 10 years in the future. Nothing. They just want to talk about the immediate, the present, which is an amazing skill. It's a very mindful skill, but it's not very useful when you're throwing a party and you want everybody to talk about their life and you want to share those experiences together, right? So it's pointless when there's one person who takes any talk of the future and brings it back to the present all the time. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's terrible. The next kind of person is the person who just wants to party, So as you get older, and I've always been a child in the sense that I like to think about things like a child, but I can also handle certain situations with maturity. So I like to especially in small situations, 4 or 5 people, I like, as a house party, I like to talk about things. I like to share experiences together. But I do not like sitting and playing loud music and, jumping around the room, which some people want to do, right? And this sort of thing it's great if you're going out to a club or you have 20, 30 people. But for a small group of 4 or 5 people who are mature, who want to talk about life, the one person in the room who always wants to throw it up and increase the volume to 200 and have everybody else party, that kind of person, in my opinion, I think the best way to deal with that person is to just talk it out and say, hey, listen, this is not something we want to do, and that usually just solves things. What typically happens is there's this one person who's playing loud music, and then everybody else is just like, okay, maybe I shouldn't tell him that I don't want to listen to this, right? Because to be honest, nobody wants to spoil that person's experience because it feels like that person is having a lot of fun. But the truth is, when there are 4 or 5 people, especially people who want to talk about life, one person turning up the music, the other people should open their mouth and say, guys, can we not do this? Because I think playing loud music and wanting to party at a small social gathering like this, that's the intrusive act, right? The intrusive act is not other people wanting to sit and be quiet and talk about life. You're not boring for wanting to do that. The next kind of person is Harry, and who plays the game called Where's Harry? Harry just he disappears from the scene. An hour or 2 hours into things, he just goes away, and then he's back maybe 2 hours later, and then he goes away again for 2 hours. He just keeps everyone in the room worried because people are like, okay, what's wrong with this person? Is everything all right? In my opinion, the best way to deal with Harry is to make that person sit down and say, you are not going anywhere. Right? I think that just solves all issues, and Harry also feels a little more wanted, and he gets the attention he needs, so he stays. There's the next kind of person who's a mind reader, who believes that they know what the other person is thinking. This kind of person, in my opinion, is the most toxic person in a social situation because they just assume what the other people are thinking, and they believe they're right more than anything, right? And if there's something that I've learned, and if there's something that we're preaching on this podcast, it's that nobody knows what the other person is thinking. Nobody even knows what they themselves are thinking. You can make some heuristics, but in a situation like this, it's unnecessary, right? And the best way to deal with that person is to just say, dude, you can't read minds. Sorry to burst your bubble. And even if you think you can read my mind or whatever, let's just, for the next few hours, let's just assume you can't, and let's just have fun sharing our experiences. Then there's the person who has all the answers, who, they're sitting at a social situation and they come in and they say, yeah, I know everything about everything. And, they confuse everybody else because everybody else's experience is now skewed by this person because this person is very definitive and concrete about his answers, never uses the word I don't know. And this person is actually a pain to deal with, but in my opinion, the best way to deal with this person is to just tell the person that, no matter how long you've been around, nobody has all the answers. It's just humanity as a whole we're still an exploratory creature or an exploratory species, and we still don't know so much. And that's not to discount the experiences you've had, and I'd love to hear your experiences, but I do not want this to become about, okay, my experiences should change because of you. Then there's the person that makes it that creates an elitist vibe, who says, oh, it's us against them, who says, the 5 people in this room, we have XYZ things in common, and all the other people outside, they don't know anything, right? That discounts every other social group except your own group. This is the kind of person who talks about other people, who makes it a group versus group thing, and always keeps saying, our group is better because of XYZ reasons. Now, this kind of person, they mean well, but they just put it out in the wrong way. The best way to kind of deal with this person is to remind the person that all humans are still figuring their way out, and it is natural to feel this way about any group you're in, whether you're in this group or some other group. You'll always feel like the group is the best, and reminding that person of this is sufficient. The last kind of person is the person who says, let's call it a day. This is the kind of person who comes in and talks about his or her own experiences, and everyone listens to this. And then eventually, the minute another person starts talking, they say, okay, I'm done here. I need to go. And I've had my share of things. I think talking is as important as listening. So stay for the group, right? This is my only advice to that. If you're this kind of person, stay for the group. And if you can't stay for the group, then just sit in silence. You don't have to listen to other people, but you can pretend to listen to other people, because people want to be listened to. And just like somebody has spent the time and effort listening to your experiences, you should spend the time and effort listening to theirs. Alright guys, so that's it for this episode. These are the kind of comedy characters you'd find in any small social situations, a small house party sort of scene. Alright guys, so this was a spontaneous cast. It was just something I did because I was opening my old cupboards and I found something, this manual that I had from a few years ago from Lucy, and I just read through it and I said, wow, I should make a podcast about this. You will not fully understand this podcast unless you use a little bit of Google and you really think about it, but it's okay even if you don't, because this applies to life, and I'd love for you to have some great experiences with your friends. Alright guys, so that's it for me. Bye bye.